So hi everybody, my name's Lisi, my pronouns are she and her, and today I'm going to share with you my journey as a security champion. So you'll hear about all the things that helped me and my development team make things a bit more secure than yesterday every day, but also what didn't work and what we shouldn't have done in the first place. So welcome to the ride. I'll split this in 3 sections. So first one, I'll share also a bit of how I unlocked security for myself, so you know where I'm coming from, the context I'm speaking about. And then the main part will be on how do we advocate hands-on from inside a development team. Finally, we also need to extend our reach. We're just one person, so that's going to wrap up the talk. But first things first. So where am I coming from? Let's give you some context. So hi again. I'm a specialized generalist. I've always been a generalist throughout my life, actually. I just love learning. I love tech. And this really fit well with working in testing and quality-related roles for 15 years now. And I've always been working on product development teams. So we owned a whole product or a big part of it from idea to production all the way through. For that to do, we need all the skills on that team. So we were always cross-functional with all the roles that you need to do that. Personally, I've been embedded on those teams just as well. So hands-on, building things together and making them better every day. Now, working in testing and quality means you see everything. It's like quite a broad spectrum that you can involve yourself, basically. From architecture decisions to building features yourself, fixing things, operating infrastructure, increasing observability in production, all the things. And I just love it. Now, how does security come into play here? So it started for me in 2017 at a conference, an open space conference where someone suggested, hey, how about we do some OWASP Juice Shop challenges together? Vulnerable web application to practice on, really nice thing. First time for me to see something like that, and I was like, oh, that's actually a lot closer to what I'm anyway doing all day. And I just got hooked. I just wanted to learn more. So I also tried to bring in that kind of security mindset into the teams that I worked with. Little things like introducing threat modeling and thinking of risks early on, basic security testing, these kind of things. And also continue to learn in my free time. I love personal learning challenges. I usually have an annual theme what I do. So things like also diving deeper into security, connecting with the security communities, coming here also last year. And, well, also sharing back with the communities, speaking at conferences, what I'm doing for some time now also about security, which actually brings me literally here. So around 3 years ago, I also changed companies. And this company, well, you can imagine like roughly 300 people, 20 engineering teams. For me, it was quite a new thing because new tech stack, first time that I was on a mobile team. I was like, okay, lots to learn, but also it's health tech. So definitely a new domain for me. I've never worked in that before. And that also comes with regulation. So lots of new stuff. And I did find out, well, they had a quite active security team already getting involved from onboarding sessions onwards. And I couldn't believe my luck. They had a security champion program. Before I just heard about these things that other companies have. And now I joined a company that actually had one in place. I was like, can I sign up somewhere? Until I figured out actually my mobile team that I just joined, well, they already obviously had an appointed champion. What can I do? Can I still involve myself somehow? Well, working in testing and quality, I learned over the years that sometimes you have to invite yourself in. So I just, joined the security champion Slack channel. Like, can I get involved here? Can I engage? Yes, of course I can. Any kind of security-related session my teammates are doing? Oh yeah, we're looking at mobile device requirements. We have a session with the security team. Can I listen in? Yes, of course. And I found out I can also contribute. So I really got myself involved. Now, what is that security champion in a nutshell, basically? So usually it's someone not being part of the security team, but embedded in their own team. Mostly a development team, but doesn't have to be. They're acting as a communicator between their team and the security team. And it goes both ways. So they share important news and things to do with their development team, but also the context of what they're currently working on, all the challenges that they face, back with the security team so we can find solutions together. And they're advocating for security improvements, hands-on in their team, which can mean spreading awareness, but can also mean really tackling security issues, hands-on, fixing bugs, maybe introducing tools, whatever is helpful. So such kind of a program can really help scale the efforts for the security teams, scale the knowledge and expertise across teams. You always have a first contact point to reach out towards, and you can also have your influence way earlier in the process, because these are the people that are right there in the room when the decisions are made. So looking at those core aspects, I felt like I already was a security champion, even before being officially appointed. And this also showed in my first security audits. So I was invited into the auditor sessions, and I was also introduced as a security champion. I was like, okay, they see that. I was usually quite nervous whenever it comes to audits. Like, that's scary. But I found out it's a great learning opportunity. Even if you can't join the live sessions, but you're just joining preparation for an audit, like what I found out was taking inventory is actually very crucial. Know what there is that we need to protect. So what is there to protect? All the components that we have in our system, what kind of services do we have? We usually have an architecture diagram or something that can, really help us inform that. And which of those components are public facing? Because that's even more crucial to protect. Think of public API endpoints, public buckets, public repos, whatever you have. Now, how confidential is that kind of information that they provide? Is it maybe public? It's totally fine, that's out there. But it could also be confidential, or it may be top secret. And what if these kind of assets would be breached? What's the associated business risk that comes with it? It's very context specific, so it's good to have that category. What kind of security controls do we already have in place? And where are the gaps? So all this really, really helps foster that awareness. Now, time has come that our security champion in the mobile team left for another company for new endeavors. And it was like, that role is now free? Maybe me? So it was quite an easy one because everybody was already working in that mode anyway. Everybody was fine, my team included. So here came the phase where I advocated even more hands-on. Now, working with our security team and all the policies and the audits, well, there's a bunch of guidelines for every team. That's very useful. But there was nothing really specific to our team's context, especially for mobile. So I sat down and wrote a mobile AppSec strategy, something really specific for us. What are our goals? Where do we want to reach? Where are we now? How do we plan to get to where we want to be? And just writing this down and making it explicit, it really helped align my team and the security team to what we actually want to achieve and how we can achieve that. It also served as a reference whenever possible. So when we talked about our security posture with our stakeholders, there's a reference document to point towards. It helped keep us focused on what's most valuable to do next of all the possible options that we have. And it also allowed us to measure our progress. How did we fare? Did what we did in the past, did it really bring us closer to that goal? Now, writing down all the things, does it solve all the issues? No, of course not. But it's a great starting point, so we really know what to tackle next. Our starting point, based on that strategy, well, was definitely our tooling. We had a lot of tooling in place, lots of things in our pipelines, and it was quite noisy. So think of, for example, dependency checkers. Yeah, when they're like shouting at you all the time, in this kind of situation, tooling that keeps telling you what more of what you already know, that you're not in a good shape, it's not really helpful. So that's where we started from. So we had situations like this. We had this very, very important feature. It needs to get out of the door. But the pipeline fails because a dependency checker says, oh, there's a new vulnerability detected. Fails the pipeline. And we're like, oh, but we have this pressure. We need to get it out. We don't have time right now. What can we do? Oh, let's just suppress it. Let's look at it later. Yay, pipeline is green. We ship it. Everything good, right? Well, that thing is solved right now, right? And that we look at it later. What if the next priority comes and later is basically never? Nothing is fixed. Now, in this kind of situation, it doesn't help to throw more tooling on it. It just doesn't help. It just makes it worse and helps the team to learn more, like to ignore all that kind of feedback. Because we need to remember that people usually have good reasons why they behave in certain ways. And reward systems is one of those big reasons. If the incentive is on releasing and not on security, guess what happens? So instead, what can we do? We need to clear that kind of noise. And that can also mean really removing all those tools again and just start one by one. Because any kind of signal needs to get through and needs to be able, people need to be able to hear it. We need to be intentional what kind of tools we really use. And also teach people on how do we even respond. We get an alert, what to do next, how to evaluate it, what to do to actually solve the problem. So better less than more, and helping people relearn. Speaking of that dependency example, because there was a red thread in our situation, dependencies, big topic. So now we know what to do, right? Let's just update them. Easy. Well, let me ask you a few questions. You can show your hands if you want to, but also just answer in your head. Who here works in a company on a product where you have third-party dependencies? Could be, paid or open source, doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm not alone. Yeah, I guess so. Keep your arm raised if those product dependencies are outdated, or at least some of them. Yeah, easy, right? They're outdated the minute you update them, at least in some ecosystems. Keep your arm raised if some of those are not only outdated, but actually deprecated, not maintained any longer, so you have to remove them. Yeah, okay, so we're not alone. It's a common scenario. Quite a sad one, too. So, what to do about it? Just do it. We literally didn't find any way around it. It just makes it worse. Like, sitting it out is definitely not an option here. We really have to do it, and we have to do it often and regularly. Small batches actually also help reduce the risk, as we anyway learned in software development. Keep it small, reducing risk. But we have to do it. So let's tackle the things where the risk is highest first. For us, that was our public-facing components. That where for us was the highest risk, but it could also be the main offenders, whatever. And then what really helped us was to tackle quick wins first. Things that, just update. You can just update it. It's working fine. No need to worry, because this way you can clear out noise again. You can practice and get into the habit of really updating regularly and often. But sometimes you have those big things, big framework updates. Oh my gosh, you pull one thing and, everything falls apart. Yeah, what helped here is to write things out. What is really changing in those versions? What do we need to change? Because usually you have to adapt your implementation towards that framework update, and it can be a big mess. So writing things out to have really very high clarity helped us to then just tackle one slice after another and reduce the cognitive load that comes with it. And once you have an update strategy that works for you in your context, cling to it like hell. Because otherwise, you're back to square zero very, very quickly. And yes, we're all humans, and there will be stressful times, and we will fall back to old behaviors. But let's catch ourselves as quickly as possible, because, not going to help to sit this one out. Speaking of technical debt, like outdated dependencies, well, one thing that really resonated with me was when I heard Tanya Juncker say that technical debt is security debt. And I was like, that makes so much sense in my world. It really resonated heavily. And it also provides leverage, because fixing technical debt is actually also good for security. More arguments to get these things prioritized. One thing how it can show up is outdated implementations. Never seen this one, right? But anything outdated can increase our attack surface. Yeah, could be old features still left in, but nobody's using them anymore. Deprecated API endpoint versions, feature toggles that are not cleaned up, or any kind of config or secrets. Especially if you inherited a long-running legacy system and, people on your team never worked with certain parts of that system. Quite a common scenario as well. Yeah, it's often quite scary to touch this part that nobody knows of. Is it actually even still in use? Well, how can we even see that? There's a lot of uncertainty usually. But it doesn't help. We need to clean up. And we should make cleanup non-negotiable. We definitely did that wrong in the beginning. We had migrations from one service to a complete new one, and we didn't clean up for 2 years. Yeah, that didn't help because it stayed in the backlog, it stayed in our heads, it stayed in the implementation, so also pen tests and bug bounties and vulnerable coordinated disclosures and stuff. They reported on that outdated part of the implementation. So just going through all those things and gauging what is it really about? Oh no, it's about this SDK that we should have removed long time ago. It's a waste of time. So nowadays, cleanup is non-negotiable. As soon as we can do it, thinking of backward compatibility, but as soon as we can do it, we're cleaning up. Now, speaking of things that we leave in for too long, but there's also some things that just should have never made it in the first place. So, letting implementation in that's insecure by design, that's quite another sad part. And it's so hard to get it out again, if at all. And sometimes you know up front already, this is a bad decision. No, let's not make it in. Maybe you can't veto hard enough. Sometimes we just learn about it in hindsight, and it's already in there. So if it happens, because it might, we're human, get it out as quickly as possible again, right away. Because with every passing day, it's going to be more and more acceptable that this is in there. And people forget about it, or what was bad about it in the first place. Even worse, people start building on it. So we develop new features on it. Our business departments like marketing is using that kind of feature, or users of using that feature and building their processes around it, and so on. So let's prevent bad things making it in. How to do that? Well, think of those risks early on. We can do threat modeling, or use malicious user stories, or personas, anything that works in your context. Whatever works, literally, to think of these risks early on, and then we have to act on the identified risks, because otherwise it's the same situation again. It doesn't stop with risk analysis, though. But even for that, we need to educate. Otherwise, people just don't know what to even think about. So educate, educate, educate. What kind of risks are there? Why is this a problem? What bad could happen? And it shouldn't stop with analysis. It's also about secure coding, basic security testing, knowing how things could show up on production and what we can alert on. Speaking of production, so it's anyway good to know what's out there and how your system is actually behaving, so observability is a big thing. Also for security, let's observe frequently and regularly, and use that information to make our next well-informed decisions. Because, constant attempts of attacking our systems can be observed every day. Probably for everybody. Well, we've seen a lot. So we should also have ways to get alerted on things that we already know is happening, which could be those kind of malicious activity, like probing our system, what kind of tech stack do you have here? Are you a PHP server? Is there WordPress implemented here? Or whatever. People try everything, right? But it could also be potential leaks that we caused ourselves that we shouldn't. Like we don't want to leak personal identifiable information in our logs, right? We know this is a scenario. It can easily happen. Let's test for that and alert on that early on, so we hopefully even catch it before production. We need to have approaches to keep the bad actors out. Yes, make it harder for them to get in. So basically not leaving the door wide open, but keep it a bit more shut. That could be web application firewalls and rate limiting and these kind of things. And yes, it's not everything, but it's a layer of defense. And it's a good place to start for people to also see what's actually caught by that and what not. We need to also learn from external feedback, like pen tests or bug bounty results or any kind of feedback that comes in, because this can really show us what people try, what kind of attack vectors they use to really get into our system. And then we need to use that input, obviously, to improve our system. And last but not least, well, the world is continuing to turn. There's new things found every day, new exploits, new vulnerabilities, new tools as well, and techniques. So let's pay attention to that and see how it fits to our context. In our case, that was like, oh, polyfill IO takeover. That might hit us. Or the Cocoa Pods supply chain attack as well this year. Things like that. We need to check how does it apply to us and respond very quickly. Lastly, we need to also talk about prioritization, or the problem of later. Quite a common observed situation. Everybody agrees this is a security improvement we really want to do. It's really important. And then we all agree to do it later. And there's lots of reasons for that. It could be lack of knowledge or skill, or it's just like we're not really certain how to tackle it. Maybe something else is just easier right now, or we're so overwhelmed we just don't have headspace for this thing. But having topics overrule security constantly, that's a big problem. Like this, we do that when things are calmer. I mean, that's basically never. And sometimes there are more important topics indeed. In my team we saw constant fires, all the things, like things that would really block us from releasing. Yes, we need to tackle that first. But not everything is a fire. There's a lot of things that are negotiable. Because what happens if we let all those security improvements that we want to do rot in our backlog? Well, we implicitly accept the risk that comes with it. And that's what we need to communicate very, very clearly. Right now, this is implicit in the backlog. Yeah, we're still going to do it in 2 years, I don't know. Instead, let's register those risks explicitly and really document what's the problem, how would it impact us, how probable is it actually in the business context. And then we can also decide together with our stakeholders what to do with this kind of risk. Do we need to mitigate it? Yes. Well, then let's do it right away, because it's really important. Maybe we can remove that risk by maybe changing that implementation, removing the outdated implementations, whatever, refer it. Or we can also accept the risk, because it's not too bad. Things can also be accepted. It's just like we don't fix every bug, because some are actually acceptable. We can also accept certain security risks, but we need to decide this together. And if we do, let's close those backlog tasks, because otherwise it's again just noise. Now, time has passed. I've been the security champion now for quite a while. We've tried a lot of things in my teams, and some, worked, some didn't really. So looking back, I found a few things that, made the difference. Now, as a security champion on the team, I learned to really foster relationships. On the one hand, well, it's been invaluable to build up that really good relationship with our security team. I also really personally enjoy working with them, because I really appreciate their very collaborative mindset, very pragmatic, like truly working together with the teams, listening to their contacts and being in there together, like not condescending or gatekeepy at all, but quite open and appreciative. So huge shout out to them. But I can't do everything on my own either in my team, although, I'm just one person. But I might also be on vacation at times, sick leave, speaking at conferences. I'm not always there. So it's important that I take my team with me just as well. And also connect them with the security team. So whenever I'm away, they also know each other already and know whom to reach out to when I'm off. Also, this means we're not missing out on their expertise, because I don't know everything either. There's a reason we work in teams, right? We have all the knowledge together. I'm not creating a bottleneck this way, because bottlenecks will always slow things down, not really effective. And the good thing as well is I instantly have allies on my security topics. They know more about it. I'll have people to advocate with me together in the team. And as my team is now very aware, we can then also experiment together to figure out how we can tackle all those things, how we can prioritize, for example. When do we do this? What we tried and what really worked well for us was using 20% time. This was a general approach for us. It was a non-negotiable time that we already had, apart from the roadmap. And my teammates used it, for example, to drive refactoring topics or cleaning up our observability tooling, the noise there, which, by the way, both also help security again. I focused on security improvements. We all had a win with that. But not everybody has 20% time or the chance to do that. So you really have to figure out what works in your context. Try things out, small things that don't hurt, where you can learn very, very quickly. And then do it. Now, I had this great collaboration with my security team. My teammates were on board. Great. But sometimes I felt quite lonely because, where's my fellow security champions? Can't we connect and learn together more? So engaging those security champions was also quite key for us to share more in our shared channel. Sharing blog posts, sharing about conferences like this one, asking questions, how did you solve X? Whatever is working. But also bringing people together at the same time. We had weekly security reviews, thinking of checking the last week's news, trying new tools that had been recommended, which really engaged interesting conversations together. And also bi-weekly hands-on sessions where security-interested people can just bring their challenges to the table and we work on them hands-on together. But there's also more spaces to learn with, because maybe you don't even have a security team or champions in your company, but there's a lot of communities out here, like here, literally, to connect with. So connecting outside the boundaries of a company can be really, really valuable. There's a lot of like-minded people out there to learn with and grow together with, because we're all figuring this out. So why not, keep learning with those allies and learning and figuring things out together. Again, I'm just one person. And I can make things more secure for my team. But we need everyone. We need my whole team. I need my security team. I need my fellow champions. But I also need the support of management and business to give us the space and time to do that kind of valuable work. Security champions, they will have very different backgrounds, different skill sets. Some might be very specialized. Some might be generalists like me. And all of that is a good thing, because there's strength in diversity, given we foster inclusion and equity, because we can actually all learn so much from each other. But for that to happen, we need to actively include folks. Make it safe. Make security a welcoming space where people are really feeling, oh, I can see myself there. I can learn. Because with everybody knowing more about security and learning more, we're all better in it and we're stronger together. When it comes to my development team and me, well, we tried a lot of things. Some things worked, some didn't. Some, we shouldn't have done that in the first place. But what worked? What worked was really to invest in a security culture. On that team level, among champions, across the company level to really raise the awareness and finding those allies and improving things step by step and continuously. What didn't work? Well, not using our veto strong enough, like not to prevent those insecure implementations making it in, to not suppress that alert, right? Sometimes really to stay up there and gatekeep when basic security controls are missing. And well, what we definitely shouldn't consider, not doing anything at all. Not working, like keeping those open security topics in our backlog. Let them rot there. Nope, that's not an option. We don't always know what to do, but that's where the experimentation comes in. We'll have to figure it out. We can always experiment to see what's going to work. So did I find this magic recipe? Is everything great now? No. What I found is that the journey is the answer. What we need to do is to keep going. Keep raising awareness, keep taking action, and keep learning from the outcome so we can do better. Opting for many small steps continuously. Small steps already bring value for everybody, not over-polishing some stuff. Small steps, delivering. You instantly make that constant progress so you can also get timely feedback and you can very quickly do course corrections. Mitigating risk through small changes, always a great thing. And we have a lot more wins we can celebrate this way. Because also small wins, if you make a lot of them, they accumulate. Optimism and enthusiasm go a long way. Because in the end, it's about always being a bit better than yesterday. So we're at the end of this talk. If you take only one thing with you, let it be exactly this. Let's make things a bit more secure than yesterday, every day. Well, that's my journey so far as a security champion. I hope you can take a bit with you, wherever you are, whatever context you have. I also like to gather resources that help me on my journey, so you will find them behind this link. And in case you have any questions I can't answer right now, because now it's lunchtime, you can still find me around in this conference or on social media. I'm most active on Mastodon. You can also find further links on my website. And with that, I'd like to say thank you.